Dreamscaper combines elements of an action RPG with roguelite design to create a compelling and addictive game that you will not want to put down. The visual design is both simple and captivating, in how it tries to mimic the dreamlike aspect to the setting. The game is very easy to get into and continually presents the player with great progression, along with options for new builds. It presents itself well at the start and only continues to offer more as you keep going. Dreamscaper excels when it comes to its progression and gameplay loop. The story does offer some promising aspects, but it's definitely the weakest aspect about the title. The developers show that they understand what makes these games fun to play, while offering it in their own unique style. The bulk of the game is centered around the combat. While in combat rooms, you can perform a main and alternative attack. There is a light combo system at play here, where if you can hit the attack button again when your character flashes white, you will do more damage. This can be really hard to get down when fighting a lot of enemies, but getting the timing down for the different weapons can help you make quick work of your foes. You also have access to ranged weapons, and this style operates more like a twin-stick shooter. In addition to these are magical abilities that you can pick up, and once every 3 rooms, you can opt to slow down time for a bit to get a leg up on everyone. For defense, you can dodge roll while also being able to block and parry attacks. The parrying is really useful. If you can pull this off on a ranged attack, it will cause the attack to shoot right back at the enemy firing at you. The combat system provides a solid amount of options and moves for you to use. What keeps this aspect of the game very interesting are the different amount of weapons that you can pick up and find. When it comes to the melee weapons, there's a large variety of swords, boxing gloves, sticks, unarmed combat, and many more. There's some decent impact to your hits, and each of the weapon attacks have unique animations to them. For example, using the pool stick can cause your character to put the stick in the ground and use that as a means to spring off of for a hard-hitting kick. Ranged weapons go from guns, knives, a flamethrower, and even a water gun. The magical attacks are on a cooldown and can give you a large edge in combat, like the ones acting as a dodge that can damage opponents or even summoning tornadoes. Each of the different weapons fit different builds, where some weapons have a bit more of a longer windup to them, or others provide quicker hits. There's a large amount of variety to find something that suits your playstyle. While it is random on what new weapons that you will find on a run, the game encourages the player to try out new weapons and play around with different synergies. For example, you can use a combination of fire and water attacks to do additional damage. Each of the weapons feel very different from each other, allowing each one to have that unique feel. One aspect that I really enjoyed was how you can choose which weapons and items you want to start out with on each of your runs. This allows for a lot of player expression and another great way to experiment with newly unlocked weapons. Now when it comes to games with roguelite elements, I find the best ones provide you with progression in the short term, like items you gather on your run and then lose when you die, and then items that you continually unlock and keep in the long term. Dreamscaper does a great job at providing the player with both types of progression. In the short term, the player can find new weapons and magical abilities, making the action different each time you start up a run. Then you can find passive buffs that will increase your health, damage output, and others that provide you with a great boost in one area with a trade-off in another. While you are exploring the levels, you will earn sand. This is a currency that will help you out in the short term, and will allow you to interact with a lot of special rooms, like the merchant room to buy new items or the upgrading room to improve your equipment. For the long-term progression, you will earn different currencies that you will not lose when you die, and you can spend those outside of the dreams. These provide you with a wealth of items to choose from, like improving your health, how much sand you earn, the likelihood of challenge rooms popping up, how much upgrading your equipment will cost, along with a lot more. These are not set unlocks, but rather options you can choose from and favor certain ones over others, so that you can cater the upgrades to your playstyle. Another area of progression are the relationships you will have with the people in the city. Each person will provide you with different buffs to your character, and you can equip one of these. The game shows you who provides what buff, so you can opt to choose who to focus on talking to first. Talking to them also allows you to learn what they like so that you can provide them with gifts to improve your relationship with them. Improving your relationship will improve their buffs that they provide to you. There is a to-do list which also allows you to cash in different accomplishments for rewards. These act as a sort of bonus reward for improving relationships and mastering weapons. In addition to all of this, there is a nice option on how you can choose how hard you want each of the runs to be. There are 4 different areas that you can tweak, and the harder the run is, the better the rewards that you will get. Like I said before, the combat is solid with plenty of options for different builds, and the progression is what makes you coming back to this game and not wanting to put it down. You are always working towards something new and useful with Dreamscaper. Now let's briefly go over what you can expect on a run. When you enter a dungeon, you will see a few different directions that you can go in. The map is a really awesome feature in this game. The best aspect about it is that it will let you know if there is an item that you forgot to pick up in a previous room. This is a great element that shows how the game respects the player's time. Then it is up to the player to choose which direction they want to go in. You can opt to target a room that is visible like a challenge room so you know what you're getting into, or you can select one with a question mark on it and see what you find. As long as you have unlocked the different rooms that you can encounter with your upgrades, puzzle rooms will pop up and provide you with a nice diversion from the combat. Your main goal is to find the boss in each of the dungeons, but there are also hidden rooms that you can use bombs on them to open them up. Through exploration, you will find keys and bombs to open up additional items and rooms so that you can tackle them and be able to increase your chances on that run. The bosses are pretty fun and provide their own ins and outs that are worth learning. Having a better set of equipment helps, but learning their moves really allows you to defeat these bosses without even having better loot. While on a run, you can opt to sell items on the fly for more sand to make more useful purchases. Another solid quality of life feature is how you can fast travel to any room that you have already been to. Just like with the map, this factors into Dreamscaper not wasting the player's time and keeping it fun. Dreamscaper creates this instantly addictive and captivating experience that only gets better the more you play it. I do have a few flaws throughout my experience. For one, I found the presentation of the relationships to be rather static and boring. The conversations are shown on one screen and there are no cuts or changes in the angles to make the conversations more dynamically presented. Sometimes what they are talking about was interesting, but the presentation of it made me want to skip these sequences. Having said that, I do like the concept of needing to build relationships as a means to improve certain aspects about your character. I had some minor issues with some stuttering and loading, but after tweaking some of the settings, the game ran just fine. The game does a pretty good job with balancing, but some of the enemies do feel like they either do too much damage or take too much damage to kill them. A good example are the brute-like rushers that can do an extreme amount of damage and end your run very quickly. Even with some of these issues, Dreamscaper is an absolute blast. Before we move to the conclusion, I need to mention the soundtrack. The music here is instantly relaxing, engaging, and captivating. It perfectly fits the dreamlike feel to the story, and it becomes an important part of the game's identity. This is a situation where the music is almost like a character in the story. Here are a few tracks from the game. Dreamscaper is easily one of the best indies that I have played this year, and is easily one of the most underrated games of this year. The gameplay is great in how simple it is to understand, and it excels at providing a lot of options for the player to keep rushing back in for a fresh run. The progression is addictive and gives you that enjoyable grind for always wanting to strive for a new unlock. The visuals and music lift up the story even though the presentation of the conversations can be a bit boring. Dreamscaper is a game that I hope will continually catch on with more players. It understands what makes these games so good and delivers a great experience. This is one game that is very hard to put down. I highly recommend it, and thank you very much for watching.